Awesome. First of all, congratulations on this. It is such a fascinating watch. What was it about this story that you decided to tell it in such a unconventional way?
I think the only way that really makes sense to me,
Mhm.
one of the things that we were exploring, Marjorie and Randolph, the actor, and me and everyone else working on the film, I think was what it's like to take your story as you conceive it to be and try to turn it into a story for other people to consume and to want to capture their interest. And so I think while Marjorie had been telling certain points of her story for a long time, some of which don't make it into the film.
Mhm.
For example, just to give you some examples, because I think the fact that they're omitted speaks to the edit. Marjorie ran away from home at the age of 13. She got married at the age of, I think, 16 and had a child at the age of 17. She became a sex worker in New York in the 70s. One of her Johns was a very wealthy artist and art collector who paid her to marry him. He sold his art collection 1 year before he paid her to marry him. And at one point, he suggested to her that he sold the collection in order to have enough cash to pay her to marry him.
Mhm.
And uh, and 3 months after she married him for $600,000, she left him and took his Rolodex, kept the money, and also took the two Warhol paintings that he commissioned of her.
Mhm.
So those are all, really familiar. Oh, it's important though. Sorry. Before she agreed to marry him in this, chronology,
Mhm.
her boyfriend was murdered by the mob. That makes it into the
Wow.
film, right?
Right.
And also deciding to marry for money makes it into the film. But a lot of the specifics, the guy who paid her to marry him is actually a pretty famous artist named William Copley. And those things don't make it into the film.
Mhm.
So yeah, like a traditional telling of the story would include, I think, all of those points. But what we're trying to get into is some of what Marjorie thinks her story is, what someone else coming into it opens up about what her story might be,
Mhm.
and and maybe Marjorie's desire for her story to matter to other people.
Mhm.
I don't know, how did the edit work for you? What did you think?
I think that sounds great. For me, it fascinated me because it really captured my attention. It really kept me engaged with her story, and it really felt like she was talking very, very thoughtfully about what information was being put out there. So for you, why omit some stuff as opposed to just giving the audience the information and letting them decide what's important?
Well, I think in a longer project, it would be possible to give those points and include all of the in-betweens and the
Mhm.
negotiations and, let's say, like open-ended explorations to try to figure out what matters in the story. I mean, Marjorie spent a long time. So Marjorie is playing herself, and Anne
Mhm.
Randolph is really playing a part. She's not playing herself, but she is drawing on all of her own her skill set, as she's a brilliant writer, performer, and she is a teacher that teaches people to write and turn their own stories into performances. So she's drawing from like an incredible toolbox when she's working with Marjorie. But they spent all of this time, which I love, the improvisation work that they did, where they were kind of role playing around Marjorie playing Marjorie and Anne playing a version of Bill, the artist who paid her to marry him, where she's like the lover that won't give you any kind of space, that's
Mhm.
just watching you at all times and watching you eat. And anyway, the short answer is that um, I think some of that gets in there. Actually, something from that improvisation makes it in. It's when they start saying, I don't know if you remember this, but us and me, and
Mhm.
Anne's character is saying us and Marjorie saying me. That's really, that came out of that improvisation work around like feeling uh smothered by your lover. Um, I think it's in a longer thing, I think you could have both. You know what I mean? You could have the kind of open-ended explorations that are just getting into kind of story without, or interaction without telling you what it means or what its value is. And you could also have those different plot points. But I think that the plot points can obscure some of the other dynamics. Does that make sense?
Yes, I definitely understand that. And going with the improvisational stuff, how much more difficult does it make it to shoot uh a continuous film when you have so much improvisational stuff as opposed to when you're sticking to a script?
Well, we're filming with one camera,
Mhm.
so there is something, you have a point about there being some difficulty. On the other hand, Chris Dapkins, who was the DP on this film, he has a lot of experience shooting documentary and scripted material. So he was just amazing at getting really good coverage. And he also, he's a tall person, but somehow he's able to disappear when he's filming. I don't know how people do that, but he does. He sort of just disappears. I really don't know how. I've tried to do it myself. Sometimes I'm a camera person and I can't disappear.
Mhm.
But um, I think I'm not really I don't work really in a scripted way exclusively. So for me, there isn't a, oh, scripted is easy and
Mhm.
improv is hard. It's kind of like I only know the thing that I know, which is more improvisation than scripted and more kind of documentary modes
Mhm.
than scripted.
Going with that, you talked a little bit about how her story can allow for a longer format, but would a longer format fit into this experimental type of storytelling, or would it be a different way you would be able to tell her story if you were able to tell a longer version of her story?
Well, Marjorie and I were working on a book and we made a first iteration of the book which is super heavy with imagery and I mean photographs and documentation, and then also includes what is kind of like oral history. It's not her, she, Marjorie was working on a memoir, but it's not the memoir that's included in the book. It's more just her talking and that transcribed, telling all of those points. Just like we were talking about,
Mhm.
telling about when she ran away from home and telling the things that seem important to other people and telling the things that seem less important, like when she tried to learn to dance. Uh, Also in the 70s, she was lonely and she was trying to figure out how to meet other people.
Having this experimental short come to the festival circuit, what kind of response has it had, and what kind of response are you looking for?
I think it's really exciting for people to watch film in a theater with each other and have an embodied experience with it instead of on their laptops. And really that's what I'm looking for, and for people to be able to have the experience of seeing a film without knowing much about it. I haven't gotten to see the other experimental shorts that are in Slam Dance with One Rehearses, the other doesn't. And I'm really excited to see them and have that experience of not knowing and
Mhm.
being of all of us being together watching these films. So I would say that's it. I don't have I mean, if I think it's interesting to think about how we value people and works of art and things and stuff, and like where people fit into that continuum of assigned value. And that if people think about that at all in relationship to the film, that would be gratifying to me. But I don't, that's not like it's not essential at all. I really don't have expectations like that for what people will get out of it. I wish Marjorie was going to be there. It's really heartbreaking for me that she's not going to be there.
Definitely. Well, congratulations on this film. It is a great film. It is a fantastic way to tell the story, and it is a work of art. So, very much congratulations on all this.
Thanks, Jesus. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me.